Mirë, kemi ndjekur kështu Lulzim Bashën, kreun e Partisë Demokratike, në vijimin e turit të tij të takimeve me strukturat e partisë në përrethe, ka qenë takimi i fjerit, ndërkohë që është koha të ndalemi një tjetër çështje që ka vëmendjen ndërkombëtare. Bëhet fjalë për konfliktin dhe tensionet, madje të armatosura në lindjen e Mesme, sulme me raketa dhe jo vetëm si nga Palestina ashtu edhe nga Izraeli. Berat Buzhala, gazetari dhe analisti i njohur, ka realizuar një intervistë për të vështat në Kosovo me drejtorin politik për Ballkanin në Ministrinë e Jashtme të Izraelit. E ndjekim.
Mirëmbrëma. Gjendja në lindjen e Mesme ka përshkallëzuar në mënyrë jashtëzakonisht të shpejtë. Institucionet tona kanë qëndruar të heshtura përballë kësaj krize, ndërsa debati është vendosur në studiot televizive. Shtetet Bashkuara të Amerikës kanë marrë qëndrim të qartë rreth këtij problemi. Edhe presidenti Biden, po edhe sekretari i shtetit Blinken kanë deklaruar që dhuna që përdoren nga organizata terroriste Hamas nuk mund të krahasohet me vetëmbrojtjen që e bën shteti i Izraelit. Në anën tjetër, më herët institucionet tona kanë deklaruar që politika jonë e jashtme do të jetë në përputhje të plotë me Shtetet Bashkuara të Amerikës, por këtë herë megjithatë e kanë devijuar, pra nuk kanë marrë qëndrim të qartë rreth krizës atje. Për të biseduar për këtë çështje sonte ekskluzivisht e kemi të ftuar në presing drejtorin për Ballkan në Ministrinë të Jashtme të Izraelit, zotin Dan Oryan, që njëkohësisht është edhe ambasadori i Izraelit në Maqedoninë e Veriut. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us tonight.
It's a pleasure to be with you tonight, and it's first I'll be happy to congratulate all my Muslim friends in Eid al-Fitr Mubarak, and I hope it will pass quietly. Our celebration here is going to be less happy after 1,500 rockets shot at Israel from Gaza.
Can you make a quick introduction? How is possible that situation escalated very quickly in Jerusalem and also in Gaza? What happened there? Because from the distance here, we can hear many things, many speculation.
Well, I think it has a few elements, but to start, I think with the basics. Unfortunately, the Palestinians, our neighbors, are not accepting us, are not ready to live with us in peace. So there's always an excuse, there's always a reason, but at the end of the day, there is no real interest from the Palestinian side from 1947 until today to sit with us, to talk and to get into some kind of peaceful agreement. We had some talks in the past, but nothing resulted, always because of the negative attitude of the Palestinians. So what happened this time, there was a certain tension in Jerusalem, on the Temple Mountain, on the Temple Mountain. To be honest, there is also a neighborhood not far from there, Sheikh Jarrah, where there's a legal procedure going about some buildings and the ownership of these buildings. As you know, Israel is giving full religious freedom. That means tens of thousands of Palestinians and other Muslims are coming up to the mountains, are praying. Nobody stops them. They have full freedom. But from time to time, youngsters are gathering stones and throwing them. No country in the world would let that happen, certainly not in such places. And of course, in these cases, we have to react. And some of the pictures that you see people from the police going into Haram al-Sharif, into the religious places, and to other places. Wherever there is danger for people, we have to interfere. I think it's our obligation. And this is what started this round. But for a long time, the Palestinians have looked for reasons, for excuses. Of course, shooting from Gaza, they say, is because of Jerusalem. They shot before, they shot after. They're shooting because they don't want us to live in peace and quiet with our Arab neighbors. In the last few years, we had agreements signed with Arab countries, though the Palestinians didn't want it to happen and actually even threatened the countries not to do that. So if you look at the big picture is that there's no interest on the Palestinian side to get to an agreement, and they will use anything. And first and foremost, it's the Hamas organization, which has in his declaration, in his basic, I would say, constitution, the call for killing Jews. Has nothing to do, not with the Temple Mount, not with anything else. This is specifically what it says there. Killing Jews is one of the goals of this organization. And unfortunately, they took hostage of the people of Gaza.
Yeah, but
And
Mr.
therefore-
Ambassador,
Yes.
videos and pictures of Israeli security forces storming Al-Aqsa Mosque. I mean, was it necessary for Israeli forces to storm that mosque? I mean, was it a bit disproportionately using force and entering in the third most holy place in Islam world?
Well, first of all, I would have liked us not to do that, but there's no other chance when you have 70,000 people on the mountain, and when they start coming out, they start bombardment of stones. I suppose you have seen some of the pictures. It's unbelievable. They have made it ready beforehand. You see piles of stones. It was shown all over the world, just ready to be thrown. It's endangering life. When you have endangering life of Jews and Christians and Muslims, you have to act. And this is what we did. And again, the issue in Jerusalem is, as I said, an excuse for the Palestinians, again, not to continue the peaceful and harmony that we had in so many places. And now they try to ignite other places as well. So in this respect, we did what we could. But certainly there is no interest. We didn't stay there. The police entered, then it comes out. There is status quo. Israel is making it possible not just to pray, for each and every one to do what he feels like in the boundaries of the status quo.
Yeah, can you tell us, and for our, yeah, can you tell our public, I mean, how many Palestinian Arabs live in Israel, like in your country, not in West Bank or Gaza?
Yes, of course. Well, of course, in Israel, we have about 9 million altogether population, out of which almost 2 million are what we call Israeli Arabs. Some of them declare themselves as Palestinians, some less. So it all depends on the declaration, but we are talking about almost 20% of the population of Israel. And these are people that can vote to the Israeli parliament. They have all the rights. When now there was vaccination to all the Israelis, they all got vaccine. So have this in mind. It's not someone that we don't care about. The other way around. We care a lot. Yeah. There are brothers. I do my shoppings in Abu Ghosh. It's a small village next to Jerusalem. It's all Arab. It's Muslim Arab. I was there together with your head of mission, with Ines Demiri. Just a few days ago, we had a big iftar event with the president of Israel, with Ines. We sat together on one table, Jews and Arabs and Christians, and we had the ambassador of Egypt, the ambassador of Jordan, the ambassador of the Emirates, me, ambassador to North Macedonia and head of the Balkan department, and Ines Demiri. All in the same table. We were greeted by our president in an Arab village for the iftar dinner. The chief rabbi was there.
Do Arabs takes role in the institutional life of Israel? Do they have MPs in Knesset, and do they have ministers in your government?
Well, first of all, let's start from the parliament. There are today 15 Israeli members of parliament. They not only choose to the parliament, they also enter the parliament. They're members in committees. Right now in the government, we don't have any Arab minister. We had in the past. We again might have in the next government. It all depends on the new formation. As you know, we are in between the future of creation parties, but all the sides, right and left, have been speaking to the Arab parties to check the possibility that either they will support from the outside or will be part of the government, both left and right. This is something which is new, which didn't happen before. And this is also one of the reasons why so many people are so disappointed now that Israeli Arabs took part in some of those violent demonstrations that happened in the last 3 days, especially very, very hard scenes that we saw yesterday, talking about both Arab attacking each other inside Israel, really, really upsetting scenes. And there were condemnations from right and left, and also from high officials on the Arab side. And I really, really hope that we will succeed to get it to calm down. But again, we're not dealing with the main issue. The main issue, if you ask me, is an organization, terrorist organization, which is shooting thousands of rockets at Israel. but shooting it from inside population, which is already a huge breach of international law, and doing it towards civilian population. When Israel is attacking in Gaza, we are trying to get to those who create the bombs and the missiles, to the factories, to the teams that are sending them, and to the heads of those who are planning and organizing.
Yeah.
Of course, there is collateral damage and other people are getting hurt in the process, but we are not targeting civilians. If we would, the situation would have looked totally different. Israel has capacity to flatten Gaza. We're not doing that. We're not interested in doing that. We want to live in peace and harmony as much as possible. We want them to come
Mr.
and work in Israel.
Still, we can see, and the world can see, pictures of dead kids and women in Gaza. Like, is it possible for a democratic country like Israel, most people say the only democratic country in the Middle East, to make a distinction between terrorist groups like Hamas and civilians that are used most of the time as a human shield against the rockets that are coming from mainland, from Israel?
You're so right, and it's a very difficult question. What does a democratic country should do? What should we do when we have such a situation, when missiles are shot from in civilian, from cities, from next to hospitals, from mosques? They shoot from all these places. So what do? You don't retaliate, you don't answer, you don't try to stop them. I'm sure that if only 200 missiles would fall on Pristina, I'm sure the reaction would be very clear. I'm sure that you will not wait 2 moments before you will attack back those who attacked you. And they are hiding behind civilian population. This is exactly the problem. And Israel is doing such efforts, which I don't know of any army that is doing. We have this system when we are planning to attack certain places, we inform, we send messages to the people in the homes to come out because we know that there's a terror activist there.
In what manner?
Other army that is doing that.
Yeah, in what manner you send the messages? Like through media?
No, of course not. First, directly to some cell phones, through people in the building that we know are there, through some kind of what we call. We do that. We did this when the big center of the Hamas was put down a few days ago. First, the guy at the entrance got the information to tell the people, which are not terrorists, to come out, and we have this system called touch on the roof, which is basically telling them it's about to happen. Mm-hmm. So this is just one of the places, and of course it's less effective this way, because then some of the terrorists are running away as well. But see how terrible they operate. They go into civilian neighborhoods, they go underground, so those who will be, when we will attack the center of those organizations, people will be hurt.
Yeah.
But you cannot blame us for this. I mean, of course, it happened because of our attacks. But as I said, if they stop the fire, if they stop the attacks, there is no interest for Israel.
Yeah, but
some people interest in harming anyone.
Yeah,
yes.
People are saying, and media are reporting, like millions of people in Gaza, civilians, are living in miserable conditions. Like in one hand, they have Hamas, which reputation actually media are reporting is going down in Gaza, because since they took the power there, nothing has been done and the corruption is very high there. But also they are living in a ghetto. What's your role there? Because they don't have a freedom of movement. They don't have access to the outside world. Is it not any way that you can help them, to get out of that situation?
We would love to help them to get out of this situation. I think you're a bit exaggerating. Certainly in terms, we don't use the word ghetto. This is terms from other periods, and I wouldn't make I wouldn't use, of course, this language. But certainly Hamas is bringing the population there to a terrible situation. Even just think about the cost of all the fireworks and all the missiles that were sent to Israel. 1,500 missiles. And all the people working around it, all this money was supposed to be actually a lot of the money came from European countries, from the United States, from others, in order to help the Palestinians. But they used the money for other things. They used them to dig tunnels, to create missiles. And of course, when you put your money there, of course, you cannot put it in education and you cannot put it in welfare. But to be honest, this is only part of the picture, because the second part, you're saying that they have no possibility of going out. First of all, there is a passage to Egypt. I mean, as you know, the Gaza Strip has connection also to Egypt, and there is a possibility to pass there if the Egyptians decide to open it.
So
I can tell you that the Egyptians...
So they can travel to Egypt, right?
If Egypt allows it.
Okay.
Egypt understands that we're talking about a reign of terrorists, so they are not allowing it as well. Okay, not just Israel. Egypt is not letting most of the time. And most of the time, Israel is letting them in, letting some people to come and work here. There's thousands of Israeli equipped things going in all the time. Right now, there's war. Right now, of course, nothing passes except for humanitarian aid. But during the last year, certainly in times of Corona, all the products almost that they have come through Israel. Where do you think it comes from? So this is only part of it. And I'm not talking of it. I'm volunteering in a hospital in Jerusalem. And I see how many of the kids coming to Jerusalem hospital to be treated by Israeli doctors, Jews and Arabs, are Palestinians.
Yeah.
And Palestinians from Gaza, they're coming and we are treating them. And there's, again, the potential for cooperation is so wide. And this is why it's so sad that they're taken by these terrorists and they're not letting them improve their lives. Israel is all the time offering cooperation in partnership to Gaza in economic fields. They say, no, we're not interested. Time after time. Time after time.
Yeah. In the other hand, most of the Palestinian Arabs, they live in the West Bank, and they have been silent. Like, I mean, they have protested, but not throwing missiles to Israel. What's the distinction between them? Why, in the other hand, we have some Palestinian Arabs that are like much more calm. In the other hand, in Gaza, we have very violent acts toward Israel.
Well, I would be careful with giving this specification. In the West Bank, it's not quiet. Terror acts there as well, but there is military cooperation, security cooperation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority.
Okay.
At least there was until a few days ago. So there's a lot of the interest of the Palestinian Authority is that it will not raise into a real conflict, to have it on, let's say, low gear. But to be honest, there are a lot of incidents which are prevented because Israel is there. Israel is in the it's not far. We have a lot more intelligence, a lot more information on what's happening in the West. This is why whenever we know that something bad is about to happen, we can stop it on time. The second thing is better economically. And when people have what to lose, and if you know that if you're going to take part in some kind of a terror attack, you will lose your house, you will take down your house, or you will pay in different other ways, or people will not come to your place to eat there. All these things start in this equation. So the West Bank is better, but not much better. Not much better. They don't throw missiles because Israel is around with a security, I would say, surroundings. And the Israelis and Palestinians live there, actually one next to the other.
Yeah.
So in Gaza, we left, by the way, we left as the international community asked us, leave Gaza, everything will be fine. I remember I served in Denmark at the time. I remember people in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs are telling me, listen, just leave Gaza and you will see it will be, peace and quiet. So we left and we got such amounts of bombardment from there, tens of thousands of rockets.
Yeah.
So not being there did not help. Again, we're not coming back. We left 20 settlements there, more or less, just to get to the international line and get to a peace agreement. And this is what we got.
Yeah. A few months ago,
yes.
Yeah, a few months ago, Kosovo and Israel established a diplomatic relation, and we have Kosovo has become the first Muslim country, majority Muslim country, to open an embassy in Jerusalem. First of all, how are our people there? Are they safe in Jerusalem?
Well, your people in Jerusalem are totally safe, and I just met yesterday with Ines Demire, the head of the embassy. We meet quite often. We go to meetings together. She comes to the ministry. We went to iftar dinners together. There's a lot of activity that is planned and already started to be created. Of course, the last events stopped us a bit. I'll be happy to elaborate a lot more on that. I would say something before that, just to finalize the question before. People tell me, but you know, many more people are wounded in Gaza or dead. And it's clear because Israel, an innovative country with very good armament and possibilities, have also the Iron Dome. People don't talk about it, but if they shot on us 1,000 rockets just until yesterday, it's already more than 1,500, then more or less 350 fell on their territory. Some of the kids that you saw dead from the Palestinians are from their bombs. And of course, on the Israeli side, because human life is number one on our list, we have the Iron Dome with the Israeli speciality, which means that when they shoot at us and we know that it's about to fall in a problematic place, we can tackle it on the air. And about, I think, 75 to 80% of what was fired to Israel was shot down in the air by this Israeli instrument. And this is also why we have so few, but even terrible thing. This morning, a 6-year-old boy was killed, and he wasn't in a safe room from one of those rockets. Let's go back to, if I may, to the...
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, it's. I would like to ask you also for the missiles that Hamas is throwing to Israel. Where do they get the guns and arms and missiles?
This is part of the problem that we are calling the international community to assist us, and unfortunately, not enough is done. No doubt that the information and the know-how comes from Iran and from their supporters. There's Hezbollah, and there's Iran itself, the proxy of Iran and Iran itself, and there's Hamas. They're all one chain of terror. And what we are trying to do is to stop them from sending missiles and from sending the know-how towards Gaza Strip, but also to Lebanon. We have similar problems with Hezbollah in Lebanon. But the difference is that Hezbollah in Lebanon today is deterred. See, there's a conflict. They're not taking part because they know what will be the cost. Yeah. They know that if they take part, they will pay dearly. And unfortunately, it seems that until in Gaza, Hamas will not feel that he's losing all his assets, it will not stop. But I do hope it will stop soon.
It's also like very problematic and it's very confusing actually from Kosovo to hear like President of Turkey, Erdogan, using a very aggressive rhetoric toward Israel, and in the meantime, economic ties between Israel and Turkey is very close. Like, how is that even possible? Like, in the meantime, you have almost like rhetorical war between two countries, and you are like very tight partners in economic field.
Yes, this is certainly one of the wonders of the Middle East. We have really wonderful relations economically with Turkey. We have great disagreements. You asked before about where do they get their weapons. So teams of Hamas, until lately, were in Turkey, stayed there, and we asked a few times to take them out from there. And this is another one of the things that did not happen. So this is complicated, but at the same time, every Muslim Arab country that is ready to do business with Israel, we are doing our best to do that. Unfortunately, Erdogan quite a few times there and in other occasions. Let me just remind you, he had also some declarations about Kosovo in the past, saying, you know, Kosovo is Turkey, is Kosovo. You didn't like that either. And this is just the, you know, and now when you open an embassy in Jerusalem, let me remind you, there were threats coming from Turkey. So I would hope that Turkey as well, like others, will stop the threatenings and will concentrate on the economic partnership.
Yeah, Kosovo.
yes, to the relations.
Foreign Minister of Kosovo, Madam Donika Grvola-Schwarz, she made public that our foreign policy would be in total compliance with the United States of America, like when it comes to the Kosovo embassy in Jerusalem. But from your point of view, from Israeli point of view, what should be relation between two countries? Kosovo is a majority Muslim country, but it's non-Arab, non-Turkish Muslim, like European Muslim majority country. How do you see the relation between two countries?
I will start by saying that Israel established diplomatic relations, as you know, not long time ago. And I heard also my friend Yael Vilan speaking in Belgrade about this topic. Yeah. And he was talking about American pressure. I think we should put it in a bit of a different category. No doubt that the Americans in the last 12 years have been asking us and telling us that the right thing is to recognize Kosovo and to establish diplomatic relations. And it only happened now. And the reason that it only happened now was because what Israel was offered now was a big package, a very big package, which includes not only an embassy of Kosovo in Jerusalem, but also future embassy of Serbia from Belgrade in Jerusalem, and many other things which are very important for Israel, including issues connected to Hezbollah. And these are things which are written in the agreements with the United States, in the text with the United States of both sides. So this is very important. So we were offered, let's call it a package that we cannot refuse. And for a long time, many people in Israel wanted to have diplomatic relations in Kosovo. It's not a secret. And I'm happy that it happened. And I'm happy that we are now in a stage where we can really build relations. And when you build relations, you did a wonderful thing. As you promised, you open an embassy in Jerusalem, just like the Americans did. Yeah. And you have a wonderful head of mission. But no doubt at these moments when Israel is under attack, we expect our close friends, and we see Kosovo as a close friend, to declare clearly that attacks on civilians, that missiles from Gaza, certainly from dense population into Israel, towards civilians is unacceptable, not just illegal, unacceptable, and you demand that it will stop. This is like something that the Americans did. Yesterday, there was a talk between Benjamin Netanyahu and President Biden, and this was exactly what he said. He said it to the press afterwards. He said, it's unacceptable. The shooting from Gaza must stop immediately. And basically, this is what we expect from our close friends. And I can tell you that our friends in the region are going in this direction. And Albania, if you saw the statement of the Foreign Ministry of Albania, is clearly stating exactly that. Yeah. And I'm looking at yes, sorry.
Yeah, I just would like, because we had an agreement in Washington, it was last September, in which both President Vučić and Prime Minister Hoti pledged to open embassies in Jerusalem. Is Belgrade fulfilling that promise? Is Belgrade going to open an embassy in Jerusalem?
Well, I can say, first of all, that I hope that they will fulfill their promises, just like you did and just like we do. We fulfilled part of the agreement with Israel. The signed documents were that Israel will establish diplomatic relations with Kosovo, and that there will be an opening of embassy in Jerusalem. All that already happened. The part on the side of Serbia did not happen yet, but we expect Vučić, we expect Serbia to continue the path and do that. And actually, I think it will be also good for the future relations of all the countries in the Balkans, because I think strong Israel and strong embassies in Jerusalem are very positive. We are in negotiations with the Serbs. They might start with a economic center first, and hopefully next stage will be an embassy. Again, this is what we expect. We expect our friends to assist us to defend ourselves, to defend the Western world. And also we expect these countries to do what they promised. Until now, it didn't happen. But again, we really hope that it will happen, and that it will happen soon. We have wonderful cooperation with Belgrade in so many fields, starting from innovation all the way to tourism. We hope that we will have a lot of tourism coming to Kosovo as well. And I had already a few meetings together with Ines Demiri, with leading figures, both in economy, but also starting to talk about tourism, starting to talk about the possibility of flights in the future, direct flights. There's so many things that we can do together. And I really hope that we will have the chance to do it and that we will find partners to all the topics.
Balkan itself is kind of a Middle East of Europe, like when it comes to the complication that we have with each other and the different stances for different problems. What we have seen in the last 10 years, or more maybe, there is a Palestinian ambassador in Belgrade who is absolutely like, he has more aggressive approach toward Kosovo even than Belgrade itself. What is the problem of Palestinians with Kosovo? Like, why are they so aggressive to deny the independence of Kosovo? Do you have any idea about this?
Well, I have many ideas, but I think this is the kind of question that you should relate to the ambassador himself if he's ready to talk to the Kosovo television. I can tell you that the Palestinians, we have an expression that was made by one of the famous foreign ministers of Israel. The Palestinians never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. So I suppose in this case, this is another right moment for their loss. Again, I would expect them to do that at a very early stage, maybe even before Israel. I think it's a Palestinian interest. But again, I'm not here to defend Palestinian interest. I'm to defend Israeli interest. And the Israeli interest is that there will be peace and quiet in the Balkans, as well as, of course, in Israel and the Middle East. So every country which is ready for peace and quiet and interested in cooperation will have not just our blessing, but our hand. And we are putting again our hand to the Palestinians, calling them to negotiate. And we really hope that in your dialogue with Belgrade, there will be movement forward. If we can be of assistance there, we will be very happy with that. But I'm saying mostly a lot depends on the people in Pristina and the people in Belgrade and the leadership. And I really, really hope that it will happen, because I think it will be also good in this triangle with Israel. I think that the interests of the three sides are very close, and we can gain a lot from coming closer.
Yeah, just last two questions. People in Albania and in Kosovo, they would like really much to brag toward what we did for Jews during the Second World War. Also, we have seen videos of your Prime Minister Netanyahu being quite frank and with a clear ideas during the war. I mean, he compared, not 100%, but he said that what we are seeing, the train with the Kosovo people moving out of Kosovo because of the violence caused by the Slobodan Milosevic, he said that we cannot tolerate this. He said that we as a Jews, as an Israeli state, we cannot tolerate this, and we should be in our side. Do you see any similarities between two nations, between Albanians and Jews?
Well, I see a lot of similarities between Albanians and Jews, and I see a lot of things for cooperation. I would try, and I think it's wrong to look at the evil times of Second World War and try to make comparisons. I think it's wrong. And I also think that the full picture of what happened in Kosovo is much more complicated. In Albania, as you know, there were 200 Jews before the war and 2,000 Jews after the war. This was not the case in Kosovo. Some of the Jews of Kosovo were taken to Bergen-Belsen. Some of them did not return. It's not total saving like was the case in Albania. I know personally even one family who saved Jews, the Razniki family. And it's an amazing story. There are two such cases declared, accepted, rewarded by Yad Vashem. But this is two cases. In Albania, we have more than 73 such cases officially. So what I would say on the Jewish issue, I would say, and of course there is also a part which, no, I don't hear people talk enough, but there were people from Kosovo taking part in the forces of the Mufti, which were very problematic during Second World War. It has to be said, it has to be taught, but in general, there is warmth towards Jews and towards understanding. We know the Bessa. We teach about it in our schools, both on the saving of the Jews and the Bessa in general. So I see a lot of possibilities if you 2-3 days ago, I saw the big iftar dinner of our ambassador Noach Galgendler sitting in Tirana, making 150 people. In the midst of what's happening now, in Tirana, a big iftar dinner with leaders of Muslim leaders.
Yeah.
So in general, there's a lot.
Is Israel going to open an embassy in Pristina?
I don't know yet. First, we are trying to create a government, and hopefully when we will have a government and foreign minister and everything, there will be a decision that the next government will have to take. What I can tell you for now, the idea is to have a non-resident ambassador to start with.
Okay.
It's not the worst situation. I can tell you I'm already for 7 years the non-resident ambassador to the Republic of North Macedonia. And we are doing fine, but of course, I hope that there will be more than that, but this will be the first stage. But even that is postponed, not because we don't want to, but we cannot. We are in an interim government. They cannot nominate ambassadors. We actually have 38 ambassadors which were nominated and cannot even ask for the agreement, for the agreement with the other country. You know, ambassadors to Poland, to many other places. All that is waiting, and hopefully we soon will have a government and we will not go to another round of elections, but this is also possible. So have a bit of patience on this issue. I'm sure you'll have a wonderful person sent to work in Kosovo. We see a very big importance in Kosovo. We see possibilities for cooperation, not just in economic issues, but also in academia. We already started that, in innovation, in tourism. There's so many fields that we want to do, and I think when it will start happening, people in Kosovo will understand much better how important is what is happening with Israel.
But for now, I see that Israel, it's like a leader of innovation and IT, and one of the sectors actually that also is flourishing in Kosovo is IT. I mean, this is one of the main sectors that we are also exporting something to the internationals. So do you think that we can cooperate in this field, the two industries between each other?
No doubt that we can. But of course, the framework that what will be done is all question of mutual visits and work together. We already started some of the first meeting I arranged for Ines Demiri here, where with centers of innovation, with companies, with funds of innovation, which is not less important because if you need the funding for the startups. And about, I think a year ago, before even signing the agreements, we had a visit here from the Center of Innovation. I personally took them, though we still didn't have the establishment of diplomatic relations. I took them to one of the centers in Azriel in Jerusalem to see the A2B accelerator and see about possibilities for future partnership. I see a lot of possibilities in this field, and I'm sure that we can do really a lot. And again, we are aware of what is happening in the IT sector in Kosovo, and we are taking it into consideration. Well, of course, we are two small countries. Usually we look for, the big markets, but even in small places, you can have one or two startups which will turn into companies, and you see what happens with some Israeli companies that are sold for billions of dollars, and it changes the economy. And this is what you need. So I hope you will concentrate also on innovation because that's the future.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being with us tonight. We really hope that this violence will end soon and both countries, Kosovo and Israel, start to cooperate and to have more intense ties, especially in economic field with each other.
Thank you. Let me send again my greetings for the Eid, for Eid al-Fitr al-Mubarak, and I really hope that you will celebrate. As I said, unfortunately, we still cannot celebrate here properly. I hope that the missiles will stop and will be condemned also by the leading Kosovo figures. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shikues nderuar, ishim në një intervist pothuajse një orë të gjatë me drejtorin politik, drejtorin shefin për Ballkan të Ministrisë Punëve të Jashtme të Izraelit, I cili është njëkohësisht edhe ambasadori I Izraelit në Maqedoninë Veriore. Tash mund ta ndiqni intervistën e kolegut tim Leonard Kërquki me nënkryetarin e Listë Demokratike të Kosovës, Gazmen Muhaxheri, cili është edhe kryetari i PS-së. Natën e mirë.